So everyone's saying that the Battlefield 6 campaign is really bad, and well, I can't say I disagree with them. I mean, the first mission is straight up trash. The campaign gets progressively better with pretty much each mission, but it starts so low that by the end, you're looking at barely passable missions. Don't get me wrong, it's not like the worst game of the year or anything, but it's easily the worst Battlefield campaign. This didn't come as a surprise to me, but I get why it's a surprise for many. It's not anywhere near the ballpark of quality of the multiplayer. While yeah, multiplayer and campaigns are often not on the same level as each other, this is like night and day. Now, the Battlefield games were never really known for their campaigns. The Bad Company series had pretty good campaigns, but the multiplayer was still where the games really shined. However, the Battlefield campaigns were where the developers would really show off their skills in visuals, animation, audio, and other things like that at the very least. Sure, the writing normally fell flat, there would be a ton of bugs, and the gameplay was largely just kill the AI bots that hardly shoot back, but they'd have something about them to make them worth playing through at least once. Oftentimes visual, like fishing in Baku in Battlefield 4 and Operation Swordbreaker in Battlefield 3 had stunning visuals, and they displayed these in the trailers to really pull you in. And Battlefield 6's campaign just doesn't offer much of anything. This isn't a review, but I need to briefly touch on why. The visuals are often on par or worse than the multiplayer, which is a massive downgrade from previous Battlefield games. There wasn't a single moment where I just stared in awe of the game's visuals, which is a first for me since Battlefield 3. And Swordbreaker was 15 years ago, yet looks better than half of Battlefield 6. Then there's the writing. The overall story doesn't really make sense and clearly wasn't thought through. As you launch the game, the conflict is explained by half of NATO leaving NATO because a guy was assassinated. The half that left then immediately joined up with the PMC, Pax Armata, that took credit for the assassination. In what world does this make sense? They also make sure that Pax Armata is just comically evil, like attacking and killing people even after they got what they wanted. That's just a lazy way to establish them as the bad guys, and there's a massive plot hole there. Why do these former NATO countries want to side with the blatant bad guys? I certainly didn't hear any good reasons. The dialogue, especially in the first half of the game, is atrocious. Yes, most people who sign up for the military are patriotic. That doesn't mean they're just itching for war though. Most people in the military are hoping there isn't a war. They're not stupid killing machines, they're people. Battlefield 3 tackled this quite well, with characters having banter about how scummy politicians start wars and then don't have to deal with the consequences. Banter is actually where Battlefield's writing excelled in past games. It's why Bad Company characters were memorable and why people cared about the ending to Battlefield 4. But Battlefield 6's banter is basically, can't wait to kill some bad guys. Again, especially in the first half of the game. None of the characters feel like people. They all feel like NPCs in the worst way. It does get better, but again, not by much. The characters slowly gain a personality as the game progresses, but it's too little, too late. Also, it's weird that it gets better as the campaign progresses, right? Like, most of the time I feel like campaigns get worse as they progress, but whatever.
Sniper! Gecko! Motherfucker!
Target down!
Lopez! Lopez! Sniper is down!
Hey, Lo. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Then the gameplay is, well, you shoot the bad guys, sometimes from a vehicle. It's super easy, even on the hardest difficulty. They didn't try anything new, which it's not like they needed to reinvent the wheel, but it gives them less excuse for not quite pulling off what they did do. It was basically old school Call of Duty type missions for the majority of the game. And by old school, I mean finest hour. Complete with brain-dead AI, both friendlies and enemies. Having your support teammate randomly drop everything they're doing and run through the battlefield to give you ammo is kind of funny the first time. It gets old before the end of the first mission though. And the overdone objectives of going from point to point, kill the bad guys, survive an ambush, destroy AA guns, and escorting tanks are literally things we've seen since Finest Hour. I mean, the Black Ops 6 campaign felt more like Battlefield than this game's. There are more Battlefield-esque missions toward the very end of the game, but again, it's too little too late. But reviewing the campaign isn't the point of the video. I just need to establish that it's pretty bad. Now, the reason I said I wasn't surprised that the campaign was bad has to do with Criterion Games. See, Battlefield 6 was made by several studios, not just DICE this time around, but had little to nothing to do with the campaign. The campaign was made mostly by Criterion. Actually, I've talked about this over a year ago. Roll the clip. Another thing that I find a little concerning is that they mentioned that there's 4 studios working on the game: DICE, Motive, Ripple Effect, and Criterion. So DICE is the main studio that works on Battlefield. I don't know much about Motive. Ripple Effect has been like kind of like a support studio for Battlefield in recent years, which is a little concerning because they've mostly worked on the not very good Battlefield games. And Criterion is very concerning for me because they've made a lot of bad games in recent years. They're the studio that made, you know, many of the great Burnout games that, you know, were great. But since then, you know, they've made games like the Most Wanted reboot, which I think is terrible. And then they've worked on, you know, the Battlefield games. And it's just like, that's a very bad sign that not only have they worked on some of the worst Battlefield games, but they also made Need for Speed Most Wanted, which might be one of the worst Need for Speed games. How you make games that mess up something, which this is something I talk about a lot, is these great series have obvious blueprints. Don't mess up the blueprint and you have a good game, like pretty much a guaranteed good game. And somehow Criterion has messed up the blueprint for 2 different series. That's very concerning. It's also concerning to see several studios work on one game because a lot of times, you know, they'll be disjointed, not exactly on the same page. And it also means that there's going to be a much bigger budget on this, which means that they're going to double down on stuff like microtransactions. And it's just concerning to me for a variety of reasons. Now, to give Criterion a bit of leniency, they're often just doing whatever EA throws at them. For example, my understanding of why Most Wanted 2012 was bad had to do with EA's deadlines. EA made them release an unfinished game. It wouldn't surprise me if the campaign being bad had to do with them also working on like 5 other projects for EA at the same time. But a track record is a track record, so I saw this coming. The use of multiple studios is becoming increasingly common in the AAA space, and it's always a bad sign in my opinion. The support studios are almost always overworked, unpassionate husks split between multiple projects. It's absolutely something that you should keep an eye on for future game titles and view with skepticism. Now, not all support studios are bad, of course, but they are bad signs, if that makes sense. They indicate that the publisher wants the game out faster than is really feasible. But what do you think? Do you think Criterion is to blame for the campaign, or that there was some other issue? Or did you even think the campaign was good? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe. But that's it for me today, so yeah, see ya.
In what world does this make sense?